morning. Good morning, good morning, and welcome. I'm Reverend C.C. Coltrane. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Dayton. Those of you out in Facebook land, welcome to you. If this is your first time here, a special welcome to you, and we're glad you're spending your Sunday morning with us. We're happy to have you. If you have any questions at the end of the hour, please don't hesitate to ask me or any of the people in the white or teal stoles. They are our licensed practitioners, and they know a whole bunch about what we teach here. Our mission here at Center for Spiritual Living is to be a community of love where everyone is supported in experiencing real transformation. So we're glad you're here for that today. This morning, Marge Russell will be offering our reading and invocation. Our vigil holder is Linda Smith, and Marge and Linda Andriaco will offer our interfaith candle lighting, which simply reminds us that there is wisdom to be had from the world's religious and spiritual traditions that we can use right now in our lives. The kids today are with Teresa. There's Teresa. So as she gathers up the young ones to head back for what will probably be riotous fun, because that's how Teresa is. We just blessed them on their way and called it all good and very good, and we're glad that all you young ones are with us as well. We have a couple of special things planned today, and the very first one is to say thank you to someone who is really amazing. We have this thing called Volunteer of the Month that begins today, and our volunteer for January 2019, our Volunteer of the Month is Carol Huseman. Carol is creative and supportive in so many ways at the center. She volunteers in our youth program 2 weeks a month. She uses her skills as a public school educator to create science of mind focused curriculum for our 5 to 10-year-olds. She decorates the bulletin boards in the social hall. She's a member of the social team. She helps decorate and undecorate for the holidays. She contributes to game night, the annual holiday dinner and picnic, and so many other things. There's a lot of stuff that simply wouldn't happen if it weren't for Carol. So Carol, thank you. You are our Volunteer of the Month for January. She has a special name tag that Stephanie has decorated with all the symbols of everything that Carol does around here. The bulletin boards and the youth and all of it. So thank you. She's the best. Yay, Carol, thank you. Yeah, she's a remarkable person, as well as a remarkable service person. Thank you, Carol. I also want to draw your attention in your bulletin to our Drive for Choices, Inc. That is the partner, the company that we partner with to help kids who are moving from foster care into independent living. And so we're doing a drive for personal items and groceries, and all you have to do is bring something in, put it in the appropriate barrel. We'll make sure it gets to Choices. And the kids, we got a really sweet handwritten thank you card for Christmas from one of them the other day. They were so grateful to us. And this is when you come from nothing and you got nothing to move into college or adulthood, it's kind of scary. So they're really grateful that we're standing behind them in consciousness and making these small contributions to their lives. So we hope you'll participate in this next drive. What else? Ann Calkins, are you here? Okay, she's not here. It's getting to be time for Cooking with God. There is an announcement in your bulletin that tells you about it. I'll just give you a quick overview. Cooking with God is a thing that we do every year where we, people in the congregation, figure out an event to hold that involves food and fun, and we decide how many people we want to host at that event, and we create it, and we provide the food and the fun, and people come to our homes or wherever it is we decide to meet after bidding on and buying a ticket to the event. The proceeds come back to the center, and you create a really fun time with people from your community. Everyone I've ever been to has been really fun. So anyway, That's coming up. Think about an event you may want to host. We'll have our host forms out here just directly. Then we'll put together a catalog for everybody to look at so that then you can buy the tickets to the things you want to go to. And Ann will be back to talk more to you about that next week. The only other thing I want to say is that it's birthday Sunday. So happy birthday to our January babies, John Babb, Ron Bowman, Donna Carpenter, Kathy Claude, Sharon Jackson, and Joan Petrick. Happy birthday, January babies. Afterwards in the social hall, come and join us for a little birthday celebration. And right now it's time for a little more music from Ms. Becky. This is a Faith Rivera tune called Do That.
We light the first candle to honor Christianity. What a person plants, they will harvest. One who plants selfishness, ignoring the needs of others, harvests a crop of weeds. We light the second candle to honor Taoism. Knowing others is intelligent. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. We light the third candle to honor Judaism. There is one respect in which each of us has precisely the same strength as Moses, namely, the strength to choose. There is no hand of heaven, no physiological, genetic, psychological, or providential compulsion that forces us to act one way rather than another. We light the fourth candle to honor Buddhism. Irrigators channel waters. Fletchers strengthen arrows. Carpenters bend wood. The wise master themselves. We light the fifth candle to honor Islam. O my servants, it is only your deeds that I record for you and then recompense for you. So let one who finds good praise Allah, and let one who finds other than good blame no one but himself. We light the sixth candle to honor the spirituality of the Navajo. Be careful when speaking. You create the world around you with your words. We light the final candle to honor Hinduism. The wind is blowing. Those vessels whose sails are unfurled catch it and go forward on their way. But those who have their sails furled do not catch the wind. Is that the fault of the wind? We have the words of Meister Eckhart to contemplate this morning. He said, "What we plant in the soil of contemplation, we shall reap in the harvest of action." Let's take these words into our minds and hearts and let them inspire us. And we come together this morning with open minds and hearts, open to all the inspiration that comes from our sharing this space together, that we bring to each other, and that the words that are spoken to us inspire us to a greater truth, a greater sense of our oneness and our community, our sense of sharing in this experience of worship together this morning. And I know that where we are, God is. That God is that energy that brings us together, that opens us, that fills us, surrounds us, supports us. in all we do and all we think. We are so blessed by having this space that we can share, by having each other, by having this community. And I simply say, thank you, God. And together we say, and so it is.
So we're wrapping up. Today is the last Sunday in January, which I find shocking, but there we are, right? And we're wrapping up this discussion of taking ownership of our own lives. And so we have this simple statement from Meister Eckhart that really sort of lays it out for us. He says, what we plant in the soil of contemplation, we shall reap in the harvest of action. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, was never quite that succinct. Never quite as succinct as Meister Eckhart. He said, the greatest good which our mind is able to conceive should be affirmed as part of our everyday experience. From such daily meditation, we should venture forth into a life of action with the will to do, the determination to be, and a joy in becoming. We're reminded by both of these statements, of course, what we already know, and that is that we do our work in consciousness first. That's where everything starts. Everything begins in consciousness, whether it's a chair, or a scientific theory, or a garden, or a loving act, or a kind word, or a generous gesture, or creation itself. You know, all the scriptures tell us that in the beginning there was consciousness, the void, God, limitless possibility. And it wasn't until there was the seed of an idea in consciousness planted that creation happened. Until there's action, there's only consciousness. And so we can contemplate, but until we plant the seed, consciousness is the thing that remains. So for us to live the lives we truly want, consciousness has to be followed by action. For us to live into the world of our vision, the world that works for everyone, as the banner out there says, consciousness has to be followed by action, but not just any old action. Here's the thing, it's sort of like what we think and what we act and what we say are all one of a piece. That we can meditate and contemplate and pray until we turn blue in the face. But then once we stand up off that cushion and go about our daily lives, if we're still doing the same old things and saying the same old words, nothing changes. We just keep getting the same result, right? Our action has to be linked to and directed by our expanded and expanding consciousness if we want there to be a different outcome. We have to take that high idea that Holmes was talking about that's planted in the field of consciousness, and we have to take that greatest good that our mind is able to conceive and act upon that. Ernest Holmes also said, divine intelligence knows not only what to do, it impels us to act on its knowing. When we stay in touch with divine consciousness, we're sort of pushed forward into acting accordingly. It's only when we kind of figure that we only have to stay in touch with our highest self while we're meditating or praying, and then we can just do what we've always done. No. It doesn't work that way. First, we have to remember, of course, who we are and why we're here and what we're here to do. We remind ourselves that each one of us is an incarnation, an emanation, a manifestation of the Holy One, the Holy One. There's only one, right? Each of us is an outlet for divine intelligence. We're an inlet for divine intelligence, but we're also an outlet. And so we listen for it, we listen to it, we act from it. And there are great guides that we can look to for how to do this. They're the ones that we call master teachers, spiritual giants, Gautama Buddha and Jesus and Baha'u'llah and countless others. They're the ones who remind us always that our highest nature is divine, and that once we recognize that and live from it, we are what some call saved And we're not saved from sin. We're saved from living unconsciously. We're saved into living from our highest selves. Ernest Holmes again, he said, in the long run, all will be saved from themselves through their own discovery of their divine nature. And this is the only salvation necessary and the only one that could ever really be, right? The only waking up that needs to happen is of the self to the self. And he again reminds us of what Jesus taught. He said, forgive us our debts. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Holmes said this is one of the greatest phrases in sacred literature. It places immediate salvation within the reach of all, but automatically causes us to suffer so long as we impose suffering. It's a pithy statement. There's been one big clue in it. The first one is we have to act first. We cannot wait for that debtor to forgive us. We must forgive our debtors so that then we reap the crop, the fruitfulness of forgiveness. We have to forgive people their debts and their encroachments and their thoughtlessness and their rudeness and their inattention and their limitation. We have to forgive all that stuff if we're to reap the harvest of forgiveness. We have to love first if we want to be loved. We have to give first if we want to receive. We have to be the ones to extend to the world what we wish to see in the world, what we wish to experience. We have to extend it first. That's one of the big clues there. The other one is that so long as we continue to impose on others what we do not wish to experience, we'll continue to experience it. That golden rule thing, which is in every religious tradition in one way or another. You know, we live in a monumental and amazing time. I know some days it doesn't feel that way, but I know it to be a fact. We are at breakthrough or breakdown time. And humanity is waking up. And it's happening slowly, yes, but it's happening. We are waking up. We're waking up to the fact that we are all in this together. Every single one of us is in it together. We're waking up to the fact that we exist in a state of interbeing with everything else, everything. Religion, spirituality, science, medicine, commerce, they're all telling us this. It's really, we're totally interwoven. Our lives are interwoven with all existence, from the microbes that live on our skin to the trees in the Amazon rainforest, from the guy that lives next door to the people on the other side of the planet, from our front yards to the furthest reaches of the universe. We're all woven together. We interbe. It's all one. And so where we are how it shows up. And when we wake up to that and take action accordingly, divine intelligence not only knows itself, but impels us to act on this knowing, as Holmes said. And we already know what happens in our individual lives when we start to listen to and live from the divine intelligence. They get better. They get bigger. They get freer. They get more exciting. They get healthier. They get happier. They're filled with more joy and expansiveness. So long as we keep touching into that divine intelligence and reminding ourselves of who we really are, and then we take action from that, our lives get better. And the same thing is true for our world, our universe. When we let everything we do come from that place of the source, the Holy One that lives within us, from our own inner light, the world changes. And the two work together. The individual and the larger work together. There's a wonderful, really courageous writer named Glennon Doyle, and she said, we can't keep the fact that we can't do everything keep us from doing something. And when we do that little thing, we feel more awake and alive and connected. We do the little thing that comes from our source. We feel awake and alive and connected. And every one of us can do a little something to make the world a better place. And finally, when we do something good, something that makes us feel awake and alive and connected, it impacts everything. It impacts everything. You know, I've used the analogy of Indra's net a lot, but I found another one I want to share with you because it just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It comes from a book by Terry Patton called A New Republic of the Heart. That book is our focus book for June of 2019. But in the book he's writing about mycelia. A mycelium is the main body of a fungus. It's made up of a whole bunch of branching thread-like structures that live under the soil and that are woven together and that stretch out to pretty unbelievable. They're huge. And they take the extra carbon. You know, a plant takes in carbon dioxide, breaks it down, uses the carbon, most of the carbon, and then puts the oxygen back out for us to live on. But the extra carbon, the mycelium takes it down into the soil and stores it there and exchanges it for nutrients that the plants and trees around the mycelium need. And it distributes those resources, those nutrients, where they're needed. If there's a skinny little tree over there, mycelium will take a little bit more good stuff over there. But it shares it out over miles. The largest single organism on the planet is a honey fungus mycelium in the Blue Mountains of Oregon that is 2.5 miles in diameter. That's 18 square miles it covers. That's one single organism. Mycelium creates the soil too. As it tunnels, as its little branches ramify out, it creates pathways for oxygen and nutrients and water. And then when they die, they add organic matter to the soil. So it's creating soil. And these systems exist everywhere on the planet. They're part of what makes our planet healthy. And they illustrate so beautifully what a single organism, a single person, a single act can do. They remind us that there are these life-generating and soul-supporting practices that we can take up and use, we can act on to counter the old life-destroying thoughts and habits and behaviors that we sort of done by rote. Life on Earth is like one giant mycelium, you know, one vast organism that's bound together by invisible threads, and each one of us is part of it. And so when we act from our innate goodness, when we act from our highest selves, when we act on our divine intelligence, we're kind of like sending good down into this organism, and it gets distributed throughout the whole, and we strengthen the hope and the health and the joy and the life of the whole planet that way. You know, in nature, this is going on all the time. And then every once in a while, when the conditions are right, that whole thing bursts into fruit. 18 square miles of honey fungus mushrooms. And it all happens at once. It's gathered itself, it's gathered the nutrients, and then when conditions are right, pow, there's the whole thing comes right up. And that's kind of how life happens too, I think. When we add this goodness into the world, you know, every once in a while it blossoms up in a life-giving way that will surprise us. Like an overnight mushroom blossom, you know? It's all happening underground, waiting for the right conditions. So never, ever doubt that the good that you're doing in this moment, the love you're showing in this moment, the compassion and the forgiveness and the generosity you're showing is doing something. It is. It is. Every time one of us acts from our divine nature, yes, our individual life blooms and expands, and we don't see what else is happening. We're sending that down into this great network that binds us all together. and contribute, and we're contributing to this storehouse that's going to bloom into this new world, which is the greatest good our minds are able to conceive. A world that works for all life. That is our vision. That's what we're living for. And new structures are forming all the time. New life is in the making. The world is waking up. It is. Your individual ingenuity and love and compassion and thoughtfulness is part of this vast organism that holds all of it together. See, I think that's what it means to be a manifestation of the Divine One. Your hands, your heart, your voice are the hands and the heart and the voice of the Divine One, working right here, working right now. So in the future, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a year, maybe in 10 years, the conditions are going to be just right, so that our individual work will yield exponential returns. There will be a blossoming of good that will, I think, make us all just kind of get startled a little bit. Because the actions we're taking right now plant themselves in that soil. They improve the soil of the universe, and the consequences are beauty and freedom and life and joy. We know that. We just don't always know where it's going to bubble up and show itself. We know it's going to. So what we're going to do for the rest of our time together this morning is that the practitioners who want to participate are going to come up here, and I'm going to bless their hands, and then they're going to bless your hands. So as soon as I'm finished doing this with the practitioners, I invite you to come up and stand in front of one of these amazing women for a short little blessing. And then we will close with a chamber of prayer, after which we will do our usual song, reflection. And I think it'll be very meaningful for us today. So with those practitioners who are participating, just come on up here, please. Don't be shy, come on up.
For they do the work of the divine. And may the work of your hands be Hello.
Dayton. Right here and
Right now, just infinite energy of God, love, and light, and power, and presence is right here and right now. And this infinite energy of God that surrounds us as direct navigation, this divine plan in our own souls, whether that divine guidance and wisdom at every moment, time for ourselves, and I know that after certain perseverance, confirmations,
soul. When I remember where I come from, when I remember where I'm going to, then I will see that you're a reflection of me, as much as I'm a reflection of you. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one.
Ah, yes, amen. Our ushers will come forward, please. They now have an opportunity to contribute to this community and its ongoing work in life. And you know, if you stop and think about it, each contribution we make is first and foremost a contribution to ourselves as evolving beings. But it is also a contribution to each other because it acknowledges that we're together eternally being revealed. We couldn't do this without each other. We couldn't unfold and find ways to be more loving and to be more powerful in our lives and the world without each other. And so I just invite you to acknowledge that in each other today, to realize that the contributions you make are for yourself and for the rest of your community. So let's say this to one another as we hold our contributions in our hearts or in our hands, as if we give electronically. I make this contribution for me.
I make this contribution for me.
I make this contribution for you.
I make this contribution for you.
We are community.
We are community.
And together we grow.
And together we grow.
And so it is.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Just a quick reminder, our practitioners are going to make themselves available to you for prayer after service. If there's anything that you're having trouble seeing your way through, anyone with a teal or white stole would love to pray with you. They will, it's their gift to you on Sunday mornings after service with their deep love. So take advantage of that. I would like to ask everybody who volunteered during January to just stand so we can give them a round of applause, please. Come on, go, you're out there. Nothing works without you folks, so thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who's here today. Everyone who got out of bed on this cold and snowy morning to be here, to the ushers and greeters and the practitioners and the band. Yes! The Higher Mind Band. Yes! Good to see you, Kyle.
Good to be here.
I haven't seen him in months because I wasn't here last time he was. So let's stand for a closing affirmation. Our closing song, which is I Release and I Let Go. But please know with me first. Today I am conscious.
Today I am conscious
of all I think and say and do.
of all I think and say and do.
I choose to act
I choose to act
on divine intelligence
on divine intelligence
from divine love.
from divine love.
I bless my life.
I bless my life.
I bless our world.
I
And so it is. Have a fabulous week, everybody.